President Donald Trump. The name alone brings up some nice associations, am I right? Well, not too long ago, this man celebrated his 1-year anniversary in office with the government shutdown. Looking back on this year of presidency, we can remember some other glorious milestones like the Hawaii missile scare, tweets, the shithole comment, Russia, fake news, the entire inauguration spectacle, more tweets, media censorship, endorsement by the literal KKK and him not even being able to disregard their support, tweets, his daughter promoting her products on national television via an official government advisor, tweets, him refusing to release his tax returns to this day, more tweets, golfing, just general racism, and many more that we all forgot because the new scandal came out basically every week, and at some point we were all just used to it. Oh, honey, did you see? Trump literally shot an innocent puppy. Oh, sucks, I guess. And I think many of us have asked themselves, how the hell did it come to this? Why did this happen? Can it happen to us? Well, key element to understanding how Trump became president is understanding who Trump is. What's going on in his brain? Who knows? I don't. Nobody does. But how he presents himself is important. When he entered the election, it was obvious to everyone that he wouldn't win. He was a joke. He was too racist, too sexist, too unrespectable. I mean, let me read you a sentence. And yes, a sentence. One single sentence of a speech that he gave during his campaign. Look, having nuclear. My uncle was a great professor and scientist and engineer, Dr. John Trump at MIT. Good genes, very good genes. Okay, very smart. The Wharton School of Finance, very good, very smart. You know, if you're a conservative Republican, if I were a liberal, if I run as a liberal Democrat, they would say I'm one of the smartest people anywhere in the world. It's true. But when you're a conservative Republican, they try, do they do a number? That's why I always start off, went to Wharton, was a good student, went there, did this, build a fortune. You know, I have to give my credentials all the time because we are a little disadvantaged. But you look at the nuclear deal, the thing that really bothers me, it would have been so easy. And it's not as important as these lives are. Nuclear is powerful. My uncle explained that to me many, many years ago. The power, and that was 35 years ago, he would explain the power of what's going to happen and he was right. Who would have thought? But when you look at what's going on with the 4 prisoners, now it used to be 3, now it's 4, but when it was 3 and even now, I would have said it's all in the messenger, fellas, and it is fellas, because, you know, they haven't figured out that women are smarter right now than the men, so, you know, it's gonna take them about another 150 years, but the Persians are great negotiators, the Iranians are great negotiators, so, and they just killed us. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for this masterpiece of a speech. And still, people pander to him. Mainly old, white, middle-class men with lesser education who live in rural areas. Your typical hillbilly, if you want. These are people who feel left behind by the job market, by technology, by the progressive movements rising from marginalized groups. And suddenly, there's someone who speaks like them, thinks like them, is nothing like the other educated, sophisticated politicians, who speaks out what they're all secretly thinking. And don't get me wrong, there are a billion other factors that contributed to this. But, as some of you may already be thinking by now, non-white, non-Christian or LGBT people have it way worse than them. And that's 3 groups against 1. So, why didn't the exact opposite happen? Why didn't they glue a fake mustache on Obama's face and let him run this country for another 8 years, without the imminent threat of a gosh dang nuclear war? The answer to these questions is easier than you might think. It's because they're minorities. Do you think some dude from Texas living in a van with 5 kids from his cousin and a meth addiction gives one solitary damn about the struggle of Mexican immigrant single mothers who work 3 jobs to support their families when the only person of color they've ever seen is Will Smith in Men in Black? Or that $1 million heavy CEO who's drooling at the thought of buying another yacht from the tax cuts?
Does he care that Black and Muslim children can't get any jobs just because their resumes get thrown away in the trash because the hiring official can't pronounce the names? And don't get me wrong, all these people, except the rich douchebags, are doing worse and worse over time and they all need help. But some of them are so used to being in the spotlight and having a comfortable, carefree life that they just can't bring themselves to look beyond their own struggles and actually see the bigger picture here.
And it's a fact that it's not the lazy immigrants or damn gays causing their life to fall apart. That's just a supposedly easy solution that's being fed to them by people like Trump. It's the Trumps of society, the rich, who keep profiting off underpaid labor and being born into a kind of privilege that makes it impossible to develop even the slightest bit of sympathy for those who are worse off. It's the financial politics, global warming, modernization of the workplace, and so on that leave many people behind in desperate situations. And when you're desperate, you're willing to believe anything that sounds convenient. And for everyone who tuned out after the first 30 seconds, you might want to listen up, because we're faced with a very similar threat right here in Germany. I think if you could say there's a political equivalent to Trump in Germany, it has to be the AfD. Scandal after scandal, hate speech after hate speech, and yet, here in this town, about a third of the population voted for a party that literally suggested to shoot people fleeing from war and death at the borders. Does that mean that a third of El Salvador actually wants that? To shoot men, women, and children alike, ban homosexual marriage, to get rid of the euro? No, at least I desperately hope not. But they probably know of these statements and they just accept them as a part of the deal. They're scared of the scary looking Arabian people who speak a foreign language, who suddenly started to show up on buses and trains in the morning. They're scared because they're getting poorer and poorer and they are blaming it on other poor people instead of the 1% of the world's population which holds most its wealth. They're scared of new developments that sound really strange on the news and they can't and maybe don't want to understand because it's easier that way. It's so much easier to ignore the suffering of others and just follow shady sounding promises, tuning everyone out who dare speak up against you. And it's hard to think in nuanced ways. It's so hard to care about everyone else's struggles when you're drowning in your own. But if we all start thinking that way, if we all just close ourselves off and only speak up about an issue when we are directly affected, there will just be more anger, violence, and hostility. There is no easy solution to all our problems, but we, as humans, need to try.